You are listening to CPA Career Path podcast with Rosie Flaherty, a CPA and MSA. This is episode number 2. In this episode, I continue the interview with Jessica Mcclain, a CPA, CITP, CISA, PMP, and CGMF about her CPA journey. Jessica is a CFO at Girl Scouts Nation's Capital. For anyone who hasn't listened to the episode number 1, I'm having Jessica introduce herself again.
Sure. My name is Jessica Mcclain. I am currently the Chief Financial Officer for the Girl Scouts Council of the Nation's Capital. I've been in that role exactly 90 days as of the 20th. So just still getting my feet wet and learning on the job. Prior to that, I spent about 11 years in public accounting as an auditor. I am a true auditor through and through and enjoyed my time doing that. And we'll talk later how I kind of decided to transition out of that into the nonprofit space. That's me. I'm very involved with the profession. I sit on the AI CPA Foundation Board. I'm a member of the Maryland Association of CPAs Foundation, the Greater Washington Society of CPAs Board, and many other things that we'll definitely dive into a bit more. So I keep myself pretty busy. Rosie, I'm so glad to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to everyone today.
Wow, it's very surprising to me that you are introvert and then you're doing audit. Well, people always say that you should not just based on being introvert or extrovert to decide doing audit or tax. But normally people who doing audit will be outgoing, talkative, extrovert. I have to say that yes, some people introverts still be an amazing auditors. I didn't say that you cannot be introvert and then doing audit, but it's very surprising to me. Do you have to work yourself a lot at the very beginning? Because now you mentioned to me being introvert, because I never thought you were introvert, to be honest. So at the very beginning, when you start working in audit, you have to go out and talk to people a lot, work in contact with clients, like go into the client's office. Do you have to change yourself a lot?
And I wouldn't say change myself. What it comes down to being introvert or extroverted is where you get your energy from. And so for me as an introvert, I get my energy from that quiet time, that alone time. Being around a lot of people and going to conferences for me as an introvert is actually draining. It takes a lot of energy for me, where being an introvert gives me energy. I tell people my husband is the exact opposite. He's an extrovert. So he is Mr. Life of the party, can walk around talking to people, and he lives for that. And for me, in knowing that if I'm able to, if there's a conference I'm going to and it's maybe an all-day conference, the next day it's either a day I take off from work or a day that I would work from home, just to give me that time to get my energy back. And so that's why I learned how to do it. So I can, I have that extroverted side of me. And I think some of that just came from being married to my husband, because I feed off of that a bit. And he's helped me with that as well when it comes to networking. But it's just knowing that about me and just scheduling things around that. So, hey, I have a 2 or 3 day conference I'm going to go to. I'm going to take some time off after to get that energy back, because that's where I get it from. But when it comes to the accounting profession, I could talk about it all day, every day to anyone that wants to listen and wants to hear about it. To the point now, I have a MA CPA mask that I wear sometimes, when I go out. And I had a couple come up to me and said, "Oh, wow, you're a CPA. My son is interested. He's studying accounting now and he's interested." So I gave him my business card. I said, "Have him reach out to me. I would love to talk to him about the profession and the great opportunities that are there." And so now I guess I am a spokesperson for the profession, and I'm proud of it, and we'll continue to do it. And that pulls that extroverted side of me in just talking about the great things within our profession.
Yeah. And I know that when people start, finish their degree, going out to start working, they always consider should I do audit? Should I do tax? And I know that you choose audit because you met someone said that audit was amazing. And you didn't like tax because someone told you that tax was boring. But have you ever had a chance to try tax or look at that to see this is definitely not what I want, from your thought, not from someone else told you?
Absolutely. So I took some tax classes in graduate school and knew there I started to get a sense. I said, this isn't for me. Just all the tax laws. And I said, oh my God, who can keep up with this? I also knew tax wasn't for me when I first started taking the CPA exam, and I took regulation first, and I bombed it pretty bad. And the area that I did the worst on was tax. And I said, I think this may be a sign. I said, between the classes and the CPA exam, this just doesn't feed me. But audit, just with taking the classes and learning about it and then starting my career in that with KPMG, I said, I loved it. I spent time at IBM doing kind of advisory consulting work for a year. So I went to KPMG, did audit for 3 years. After the Great Recession finally was over, I decided to see what else was out there and went the advisory route. And I did it for a year and did not like it. I went back to public accounting as an auditor. That is just what I like to do. I just like the thinking, the critical thinking that comes with it. Again, having that inquisitive mindset, asking questions and digging in the research. I enjoy that. So for me, it was the opportunity to work in audit, but also, again, just with the classes and learning about tax. It just, again, I never liked doing my own taxes, let alone when I want to do that for someone else. But I have people that are the opposite. They love taxes and hate audit. And it's perfectly fine. I said there's enough work in different areas to spread around for all of us. And that is the great thing with our profession, is there's the audit, there's tax, there's consulting, advisory. We have new areas now of ESG. There's areas regarding technology that you can become involved in. And don't even get me started on the industries that you can work in. I mean, it's just a facet, a major amount of options that you can pursue in our profession. And so I do my best when I can to tell, young people that have an interest in accounting. I said, it is so much more than tax and bookkeeping or even just audit. I know some people that never did any kind of auditing or looked at financial statements much in their life. They're more on the consulting advisory side. If you think about it, accountants, we're involved in every aspect of any business or organization you can think of, from your public companies to private companies to government to nonprofits to education, anything, healthcare, anything you can think of, there's an accountant somewhere in there. And more than likely also a CPA as well. And so I tell young people to just open their minds and say, if there's any company that you're interested in. I had one young man one time, he said, I love Nike. You don't think Nike has accountants that work for them? Or someone said, I'm a Dallas football fan. I'm a Washington football team fan. But I said, you know what? Guess what? They have accountants too. And it just like, wow. I'm like, yes, we touch every aspect of any organization you can think of. Every industry, there is an accountant involved. When you're talking about business and money and finances, we are there. And I'm hoping that, I change these individuals' mind about not thinking about accounting and putting them in that, pursuing that path. Again, knowing just the opportunities and options that are out there.
Yeah, you mentioned about advisory. Can you just share the difference between advisory and auditing?
Sure. So I did some advisory work when I was at IBM. They had a contract to do audit readiness work. There was a government agency that was working to become what they called at the time audit ready. They've never been through an audit, but wanted to be able to have the controls in place and the infrastructure in place to be audited. And so IBM was looking for people that had audit experience. So again, I wasn't auditing this particular federal agency, but helping them become prepared for one with using my auditor lens. That's one aspect. There's another aspect where you go in and evaluate an organization's internal controls. You're not auditing them, but you're telling them whether it's controls around a particular line item on their financial statements, that they need to strengthen them. They're not as robust. So there's gaps in their controls. It's another form of advisory work as well. And again, this can be across different industries, but those are just two of the many ways that you can pursue advisory or consulting work within an organization. I've seen some people kind of go more of a human capital route. Some do have a piece of IT in it. Organizations have audits of their financial statements and audits of their IT systems. And I know people that do both, that have the knowledge to be able to look at it from both sides as well. Our profession is changing so much to where when we talk about, ESG, environmental social governance, wasn't something most of us even really knew about just 10 years ago. But now there's advisory services and assurance services that firms are starting to provide around that. That's a new area for people to pursue. I know CPAs that are involved in, to some degree, cybersecurity, like, wow, I wouldn't have thought about that even 10 years ago as well. They're still a CPA, but they have that lens of the cybersecurity aspect as well. And so again, it's not audit, it's not tax, it's still a form of advisory work. And so I look at that space as, it's like, wow, there's even more opportunities there when we talk about the work you can do on the advisory side.
So advisory is also at the surface of audit. Is that true?
I wouldn't say that's the surface. It's just when you think about an organization, I look at the organization that I work for. I have auditors that come in and audit my financial statements each year. I have someone that does our 990, our tax filing each year. And I also have a set of consultants when need be, if we're implementing a new accounting standard, if we're looking to implement a new accounting system that was done a few years ago. These are individuals, many of them are CPAs as well, and they help with that. So system implementation is another area. And so it's just another subset of a way to do work. And what's great about our profession, I've seen people start off in audit and move to the advisory side. I've seen people, there's people who also, again, even look at the IT aspect, who start off as a CPA doing financial audits, but then go and become an IT auditor. They still have a CPA and still have that knowledge and keep up with it, but they're an IT auditor. And so again, we can move around, which is great. So I just kind of see it as a different route within our profession. But again, you have that right knowledge, you can definitely move around and try different things.
Yeah. So you did mention that you can do a lot of things in accounting. And people also think that doing accounting, it requires a lot of specific skills, like you need to be detail oriented, you need to be like good with recording all the numbers, organizing all your paperwork, and also like a lot of people just think that even accounting has a lot of opportunities, but it also requires a lot of specific skills. And if you do not have those skills, it's probably not a best fit for you. What could you say?
So I would tell people, and you had mentioned this question, and I had to get my notes. So there's Tom Hood, the former CEO of the Maryland Association of CPAs. He talks about the future ready CPA, and it's this T shape when we talk about skill set, where you need to have that depth of functional and technical expertise, but also that breadth of digital skills, people skills, leadership skills, under a foundation of ethics, integrity, and professionalism. And I tell people, just because you don't have this knowledge or skill set now, doesn't mean you can't attain it. I said earlier in the podcast, I'm a continuous learner. And so what I'm learning and doing now may be very different 10 years from now. And so I do a lot of reading, I listen to podcasts, I go to webinars to start to understand and learn to improve or increase those skill sets. Especially when we talk about someone, you're starting off in public accounting and you're very focused on, again, that technical knowledge, that functional expertise. But what's also very important, or what some people call soft skills or human skills, whatever term you would like to use, that are utterly important. And those are your transferable skills. It's where no matter what pipeline or area you pursue within our profession are needed. You need to have digital skills, people skills, business acumen. I don't care what part of our profession you work, if you're audit and tax advisory with industry, those are, to me, almost basic skills and basic knowledge you need to have. And a lot of that, again, comes from reading the podcasts, the webinars, the conferences. That a lot of the technical and functional expertise, a lot of that is learned on the job. But as I mentioned earlier, I transitioned from public accounting, auditing federal government agencies, to nonprofit. I didn't have, again, I know accounting, don't get me wrong. I didn't have that specific, NFP knowledge. But guess what I did? AICPA has nonprofit certificates. I went and got the 2 of them for nonprofit. I listened to webinars. I increased my network and leveraged my network to learn about nonprofit, the challenges in our industry, the key players in our industry, others that can help us as well. And so it's a continuous intentional effort that I make. And so just because you don't have something now doesn't mean you can't get it. But I actually wrote an article recently for the New Jersey Society of CPAs. It's coming out. So when I talk about CPE and not looking at it as just a check the box compliance requirement, but using it and leveraging that to your benefit, to make you more marketable, to increase those skills that, you need more help in. Let's say you're a new manager and I need to get better, when it comes to my people management skills. There's books, podcasts, webinars, magazine articles, anything you can think of to learn about it, it's there at your fingertips. And you just need to put that effort and time in to do it. Not for your employer to tell you need to do it. You need to make that effort on your own and take charge of your career and increase or improve those skills that you do have.
You mentioned about certificates, and I just noticed that you have a lot of titles after your name. Because like sometimes I remember I had a conversation with one of my one of the tax manager. He said that all he needs is just a CPA letter, 3 letters after his name. But at the same time, I know another audit partner, he has like a long, all different letters after his name, just like your name. And I'm just wondering, what's the difference? Because for each those letters, you have to probably take the exams, you have to study for it and pass the exams, and then you have to maintain it by having all CPEs throughout the year, and then like reapply for it or like the license. I'm just wondering what made you decide to have that so many titles after your name?
And there's always been that big debate of just CPA and all these other letters. And, I'd say to each his own, and what works best for you and your career and what you're pursuing, I leave it that way. So again, CPA was something I knew I was going to do. No ifs, ands, buts about it. When I was at KPMG early in my career, I was in the federal government space. And the CGFM, Certified Government Financial Manager, was one of those industry-specific certifications. Guess what? KPMG paid for it. They set everything up so I could take the exam at the office and gave me some money afterwards. So why wouldn't I? It was no money out of my pocket. They gave me this time to take, they had a review course instructor come in who over 2 or 3 days. So I didn't have to take time off from work. It was easy. It's like, why not? So again, I got those 2, thought I was done. I moved up my career in public accounting and started within, again, financial statement audit, and needed to understand the IT impact on my financial statement audits. Again, not to be an IT auditor. That is not my thing. I leave that to my IT friends. But knew I needed to understand the implications of testing in the systems and the testing around them and the impact on my audit. And so the partner I worked for at the time at the firm, he said, this would be very helpful for you, having that knowledge. And so they paid for me. They paid for my review course, my exam materials, and gave me a pay increase after to get my CISA. Again, why not? Same thing for PMP. I'm an auditor. I'm a senior manager at the time, managing multiple audit engagements. That takes project management skills. And so I was encouraged again to get that certification. Paid for it, bonus money after, why not? And so that's how it came about. I didn't know when I started my career in 2008, I was going to be a PMP. Far from it. But again, it was others in my network or employers at the time that said, this will be helpful to you, and this is why. And guess what? If your employer is going to give you the time to take a study for it, pay for the exam or the fees or the materials for it, and possibly even give you bonus money after or a pay increase after, it was a no-brainer. And so for some people, again, it's different. Situations are different. They may not have an employer that encourages them or can have the financial means to pay, and that's very different. But those investments in yourself are worth it. Because once I get those certifications and I maintain them, I keep them. No one can take them away from me. And that's why I have so many. But it definitely was not in my intent. When I first started my career, I thought it just would be the CPA. That was it. And I look up years later and I have several of them. But is it work to maintain them? Yes, it is. But a lot of it actually overlaps. So some of the IT CPEs that I get for my CISA certification helps with the CPA license as well. Same thing with some of my PMP as well. So there is a lot of overlap. So it's not like I'm just spending all day long every day taking CPE. And of course, going to conferences helps that as well. So it's not as difficult as some people may think to keep those CPE. And I've had employers that, are willing to pay for those licensing fees and application fees. And if they didn't, I would pay for it myself because it is worth every penny.
Yeah, you mentioned about motivation, about bonus, giving time. you know that a lot of CPA firms, they give bonus and give young people who just graduate time to study for CPA exams. You have a big bonus if you pass in the first year. You have like less bonus if you pass the second year or third year after that. But a lot of people, they use that strong motivation to pass CPA exams. But I have to tell you that on the other side, a lot of other people, even they have everything on the desk, on the table, all of that great things, but they still do not pass CPA exam in first few years. How do you, for those people, how do you recommend, how do you bring up the motivation for them to just like get back to pass those CPA exams? Because before you, if you're not passing CPA exams, you cannot be a senior. Now you can still be a senior, but you cannot be a manager if you don't have
Absolutely.
CPA license. It's a huge jump. And I see people who have been a senior for many, many years, and they have experience of being a manager, but they just don't have the title manager because they don't have the CPA license. And they still feel like they need to pass the CPA exam, but they don't feel the urge that I need to study for it now. I need to get the license now. What could you say?
No, you're absolutely right. The Illinois Society of CPAs, they put out a study about a year ago that talked about why some people don't become CPAs. And really, a lot of it comes down to that individual. They have to want it and be motivated, because I can't help anyone that they don't want to do it. And so when we mentioned before, that young lady that reached out to me for help, she wants to and is motivated to. She just needs some encouragement and some help. And you're right. There's firms that give the time off. They give the bonuses, the pay increases, pay for the classes. And again, there's only so much they can do. All they can do is put those motivating factors or motivations out there. But it does, a lot of it start from within. And so that study said that. And the other issue I think the society's report talked about was they have to see the value. And it's unfortunate, and it's something I know the profession's aware of and we're working on, is having young people see the value in those three letters behind their name. Because if they don't see value, you can throw all the carrots in front of their face as much as they want, it'll do nothing. And so now we're saying, wow, this study was eye-opening. A lot of people thought people weren't becoming CPAs because of the 150 requirement, or not having enough time. And actually, it was a motivation factor, and them not seeing the value in it. And it's like, wow, okay, so we need to go out here and show that there is power and prestige, more pay that comes with being a CPA, and that your clients that you work for, organizations you work for, value it because they know the effort and the work that comes with that, the continuing education that comes with that. And so that's what we need to message better to young people, whether it's those in high school, those in college, or those even early in their career, of why you need to be a CPA. But it was a very eye-opening report. I would encourage others to read it as well, because it definitely changed people's mind as far as what we thought were the reasons why young people weren't pursuing the CPA license. That doesn't mean the firms shouldn't continue to provide those motivating factors out there. Again, the pay increases, the time off, and all of that. But it's also the messaging that needs to come even before they walk into the door of a firm. They need to be hearing in high school and college why the CPA is important and why they should get it. So if they have that motivation when they graduate, and then there's a firm that's going to help them do it, that's how we get it.
You mentioned about why CPA is important. I know we talk so much about being a CPA, the benefits, everything about the CPA career, but can you just provide very short, detailed answers about why CPA is important for anyone who listening at this moment thinking about being a CPA?
So there's just short answer. Okay, let me try to make it short. So there is a level of respect that comes with being a CPA. The public, when they hear those letters, they know, wow, this person has gotten the education, they have the experience, and they have the knowledge. So therefore, I trust them to handle my books, to audit my organization, to help me through a system implementation within my organization. There's that trust that's there. And so anytime we're out here doing work, my boss, when she hired me to be her CFO, I know those letters meant something to her. because of all the work it takes to get that license and maintain it. And so she knows I am someone that is going to do a heck of a job in that role. Again, because of what it takes to become a CPA. There's another part of it to it as well is most CPAs usually actually make more throughout their career. There's plenty of statistics that show that our salaries we are paid more. And so again, it's another motivating factor. But I really believe it comes down to that trust that we have. And that's why we have a license. It's not even a certificate, it's a license that is issued through a state. And so it is work to get it. It's no different than what lawyers go through in studying and passing the bar. And so who would want a lawyer that hasn't passed the bar? I mean, who would want that? And so that's how I look at the CPA is why wouldn't you want to work with someone that has those 3 letters behind their name? And it makes you more marketable as an individual when you talk about the opportunities you want to explore. And like you said, if you still want to be an audit partner, guess what? You still need it. There's no other way to do it. You want to sign off on audits as an audit partner? Well, guess what? You got to be a CPA. And so you don't want to limit yourself to what's out there by not doing it. And that's how I see it as I can be limiting myself by not having a CPA. It doesn't mean I can't have a great and fulfilling career. You absolutely can. But there's another world that's untapped behind that wall with those 3 letters.
That's so true. I have to agree with you. And this is just a side question for people who are young, but like who are the CPA. But because based on what you just mentioned about the trust and the respect that people think, oh, you are a CPA, you may know this, or you need to know this, or you're supposed to know this. But like for people like me who's so young in the career being a CPA, a lot of things we just like, yes, we pass the CPA exams, but we don't have a chance to really have the real experience about that. And so sometimes we make mistake and then have the CPA title with under the name just stress me out. Like, oh my gosh, I'm a CPA and I made this mistake. It looks horrible. And did you have to, I just wondering, did you have to go through that feelings when you got the CPAs and then young and you were young in your career and then people just keep such a high expectation on you and then one expect you to know pretty much everything?
Yeah, it is nerve-wracking because, and again, depending if you're talking, who's your audience? Are we talking about the public who has one level of expectation? Or if I'm a senior at an accounting, my public accounting firm, and they know I've only had 2 years of experience, even with my CPA. And again, you're going to make those mistakes. I mean, number one, I tell people I'm human. And last time I checked, I'll never do everything perfectly. But I do my darndest to make sure it's what I produce and what I do is as great as possible. But it is nerve-wracking depending on again, who you're talking to. And when you're talking to, the public that doesn't understand, yes, I am a CPA, but there's also a level of experience that comes with things. So how I work and do things when I was an associate at KPMG to where I am now as a CFO for Girl Scouts Nations Capital to where I'll be in 10 more years is very different. And so young people probably like me, we're very hard on ourselves. You're not going to know everything. It's okay. But I am my best to be resourceful and, working to find the answers, whether it's through research, it's my contacts, it's my network. I do it that way. And so I would just tell anyone, of course, still get those 3 letters and understand you're going to make mistakes. Nothing's going to be perfect. We're human. But I say it's about owning up to it, learning from it, and you'll be okay. But I think alone, just being a CPA is going to be enough to say, wow, for a lot of people, because a lot of people know how difficult it is to get that license.
Yes, passing the CPA exam was like a challenging experience there.
Absolutely. I got my license almost maybe 12 years ago. And I think I sometimes still have flashbacks of studying. But it was still to this day, I'll tell anybody that time then was worth it, especially for me 12 years later.
Yeah, it's just funny talking about the CPA exam and being audit. I was in audit for 1 year. And then I picked audit because one of my friends recommended me that your personality is perfect for audit. And then I was struggling with the audit class when I was in college. I failed audit exam I took 3 times to pass the audit exam. And all the exam I just took, I think 1 or 2 only. For regulation, I took twice, but audit, I took 3 times. Other 2, I just passed in the first time. And then I was struggling with audit, but based on the conversation with my friend, it looks like it's perfect for me. I went there, and then it is amazing. I love it, but I just don't see that's going to be the long term for me. And when I change to tax, oh my gosh, I love it.
I will say it's okay early on to move around and try different things. And again, it depends on who you're talking to. Are you talking to someone in our profession who understands, compared to someone on the street that says you may be great for something just based on your personality? Because it's not about personality. It's kind of about mindset and how you think. And I know some people that are great at the advisory and the tackling the business problems and all of that, and others that have an inquisitive mind like me and are great at the audit, and others that are really good at research and can do that tax research. So I always tell people to be mindful of who's talking to you when it comes to where you may be a good fit. Are they someone in the profession, has worked in the profession for years and moved around, versus just someone that knows a friend who's a CPA and does taxes, kind of thing. But also, it's okay to move around. People, again, they can start off in audit and move to advisory, or start off in one industry and move to another. And I tell young people, you don't have to have it figured out day one of your career in public accounting, if that's what you do. You can start in public accounting and move to private. Or I've seen people start off in public and move to become an educator. They become professors. I've seen that. And it's in your career, like you said, it's going to move around, up, down, wiggle all over the place. But that's what is so great, and I will continue to say about our profession, is just the opportunities that are there. But always be mindful of who's telling you where you should work and how you should do things, because
well, the person advised me, he was a CFO. He worked in audit before. That's why he loves audit. And so he was like, tax is not for me. And so I think same to you. But yes, I took the advice from someone who worked in the public, was a CPA as well, but just focus in audit only. And so that's why a little bit like more on the right to audit. You just mentioned about being professors, and it was a perfect transition topic because you're also a part-time professor as well, right?
Yes. I teach an accounting course at Nichols College as part of their master's accounting program.
Jessica, how could you find time being a mom, working a job, full-time job, and then being a mentor, and then now teaching classes?
So let me tell you my secret. I don't sleep. No, I'm joking. I just make it work. And I know that sounds as like a very simplistic answer.
So much, Jessica, for the interview today. For anyone who's listening to this interview, I hope you learn a lot from this interview. And maybe one day in the future, I call you as a CPA. Bye.